would we be spending the next 40 to 45 minutes on? It's really about the existing SaaS landscape. So in in reference to what the existing SaaS landscape is, how really to engage with your audience. And then I will be taking some questions which the team would actually be running through and asking of me at the end of the session, right? So if we really look at the existing SaaS landscape, if we look at it, we see that over the past 25 years, SaaS has really grown to a $920 billion industry. And that has been a phenomenal growth. And if we really look at it, right, if we really look at how people are really spending across platforms or across segments when it comes to IT, we see that SaaS or software has been upwardly trending from the past 10 or 15 years, right? There has been a steady growth in the way people have really started, people when they initially started spending on software as a service or SaaS, and how that has really grown over the past 15 years and how it continues to grow. But an interesting observation really, is when we look at how that growth is finally starting to level out. And I think all of us know, and this is the beauty of the law of diminishing marginal utility, right, that we learn about, right? When there is a rapid growth, there is a point that comes in where the growth kind of stabilizes. And I think we see that happening in the SaaS space, where we see that the CAGR is actually kind of going down in terms of, it was 7.1 from 1995 to 2020, but actually the predicted CAGR till 2030 has come down to about 4%. But interestingly, if we really look at the entire SaaS landscape itself, we see that there are a lot of companies that are really newly coming in. There is a really crowded market space that we are really working in today's environment, right? So if we really look at, and G2, I know many of you would know G2, they are the leading authority. They're the leading authority on SaaS globally. So if we really look at the number of products that are really listed on G2, it's about 34,727 SaaS products that are listed. And this is as of last year, and it has only grown, right? And there are 745 SaaS industries. So when we put that in perspective, yes, Rishabh?
Ms. Deepa, I think you can continue with the presentation. We'll just take the questions later on.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So in terms of just the products, right, there have been about 34,727 products as of last year, and about 745 industries. So what does it really look like for your audience? If you really look at how your audience, or how our buyers have been spoiled for choice, this is a slide that is demonstrative of that, right? Just to look at how crowded the space is, and how many products and how many choices users really have in the marketplace, right? So the challenge really for SaaS today is, in this slowly and increasingly competitive market, how do you drive strong engagement with the users? I think till now we kind of covered just the phenomenal growth that SaaS industries has seen, the SaaS products has seen, and just the amount of choice that our buyers and users have, not just new ones, not just our new users, but even our existing users, the kind of choice that they really have, right? So if that is the scenario that we are really operating in, how do we actually go out and drive strong engagement with our users, right? How to stay relevant? That's where we say that we need to go from a brand-centric framing, right, to a customer-centric framing. What do I mean when I say that we need to go from a brand-centric framing to a customer-centric framing? The brand-centric framing is really around, and this is specifically when we really look at marketing, right? When we look at a brand-centric framing in the way we go and engage with our users or go and engage with our buyers, right? A brand-centric framing is around what do customers think about my brand, right? That is how you would actually look at framing, what are the solutions? But from a business perspective, I think it is all about driving when do customers think about my brand? It is not what, but when. Buying situations, because that is what you at the end of the day, you really want your customers to do, right? Buy your product in a buying situation. And obviously how they perceive the brand relevance, the brand recall, all of that is really important to actually go up to that place. The second one is around ads generate demand. Not actually. Ads introduce your brand. Ad introduces what your products and solutions are, but actually needs generate demand. Yeah, your users needs generate demand, and therefore, when we really go out to see, how to engage with our users, we really need to be framing around what is the need, right? What is the challenge? What is the solution, or what is the challenge that we are really trying to solve for our users, right? A brand-centric framing is around, I define my competitive set based on target demographics and product attributes, right? But typically a customer-centric framing would be, what are my category entry points, retrieval, defined. So it's not always about competition just in your product category, but really across categories. What is your category entry point and retrieval, and really how do you kind of message and drive engagement for your users in that context, right? A brand-centric framing is around, my job is to drive customers down the funnel, the famous marketing funnel that we really talk about. Typically when we look at how do we contribute to business? What is the job of my marketing? We typically think that our job is to move customers down the funnel, but really customers are not in the funnel. They actually enter and exit the way they engage with their brand or with your brand at their disposal, right? So there isn't like actually a great funnel pattern that they're really following when they engage with your brand. But a marketing funnel typically is a framework that marketers use to really kind of draw out those category entry points and category exit points so that the messaging is on point. So really from a customer-centric framing, what the funnel enables you to do is to just be relevant at any point and exit of the customer journey. Customers are loyal to the brands they love. So that is a very brand-centric framing, right? Where we kind of keep saying that, if we keep going back to the customers, we're going to increase the wallet share or wallet price. So, they're just going to be loyal to the brands that they have engaged with. But the truth is, from a customer point of view, every brand has a normal distribution of buyer feelings, right? There are always a few that are very loyal to the brand, love the brand, a few that use the brand and never come back to it again. And the rest that would typically say, okay, it's fine to buy on an occasion and not necessarily loyalists in that sense. So really from a relevance perspective, it is all about looking at what can you solve for the customer? What are the pain points, right? What are the category exit and entry points where buyers really think of my product or services? And therefore, right, what are the kind of messaging that would make sense at any point of their entry and exit in my entire engagement with my existing new customers throughout the entire journey or customer journey, so to say. Now, really, what does that mean? So if we go from a brand-centric framing to a customer-centric framing, what does that really mean for all of us as brands, right? First is about creating mental availability. And that can be done by actually creating that sort of brand distinction in the market, right? When I say mental availability is not about brand recall, but it is really about your buyers thinking of your brand at the point of purchase, right? That is mental availability. Like when I want to buy, I know and I recall the brand, right? And that just means business for you. That means you've converted your users. The second one is around messaging and designing journeys across category points in your campaigns, right? Like we spoke about, the entire marketing funnel, really looking at that as a structure, a blueprint of how you would draw out your customer journey, and say, if this was the point where I were engaging with the user, right, what are the kind of messages, or what is the kind of brand message that I really want to engage with my user with? And the third one is really engaging the right way. When I say engaging the right way, I know a lot of us tend to kind of look at every buyer across their journeys as a very generic sort of way, but the entire bit around personalization and communication, right? Engaging across journeys, engaging across buyers at various stages is extremely critical with the way we go and really engage with our customers. So let's start with actually creating that sort of mental availability, right? So creating mental availability is really about having effective creative that should be memorable, right? Which means that it requires distinctiveness and consistency. When I say distinctiveness, it does not mean that when I'm communicating, and some of the big brands that come to mind when we think about distinctiveness and consistency, obviously the big brands like an Amul, or even something like Nike, or something unexpected like Zomato, and you can put some examples in the chat, but really about creating that very differentiated brand identity for yourself, that people are able to say, hey, you know what, this brand really stands out for me in terms of the way they're communicating to me, the way they're engaging with me. So that is extremely important when you really look at how do you really make your brand memorable and mentally available to your users, right? The second one is around embracing benefit-based messaging. What do I mean when I say benefit-based messaging? I think we kind of spoke about it when we spoke about the brand-centric and customer-centric. Really, it is not about, so benefits-based messaging is just going to saying that, what are you solving for the customer, right? Why the product? Why should users, or why should your buyers actually buy from you, right? Framing it from a customer pain point of view, right? People, Simon Sinek, I know most of you would be aware of him, extremely popular author and marketing consultant. So in his words, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And when he says why you do it, it is what is the pain point are you solving for your users, right? That is the reason they will buy a product or buy a service, and not necessarily because you've created the product or the service. So creating thought leadership that is both smart and enjoyable. Now, thought leadership is really around, how do we create, or how do we go and talk about our brand in an engaging and in a fun sort of way. And this relates both to the principles that we spoke about just now, which is about creating that whole bit of distinctiveness and creating the why to why users really need to buy a service or product. In that category, 87% of the buyers, this is a recent study that was done by Edelman LinkedIn that actually went over to about 5,600 C-suite across the globe, and just conducted a survey around what is the kind of content that they're really consuming, what matters to them, right? When it comes to specifically IT buying decisions, be it in services or be it in consulting or hardware, right? What really influences their buying decision? Now, 87% of the buyers really said that thought leadership content can be both intellectually rigorous, that is, it can be very stimulating, right? I can get a lot of value from it. I can get a whole lot of information from it, but it can be rigorous and fun to consume at the same time. So just because we're communicating about a solution or about a product, we needn't be extremely serious or extremely sort of straitjacketed in the way we go. And the second principle really about how do we go and communicate to our audience, or how do we make sure that we're engaging right. I did enable my content. Is about striking a more human and personable tone, right? Now, what most of the users really came back with feedback on how a lot of, especially in the services and tech, really are communicating is they're being very, very formal, right? Being very straitjacketed, being very serious. In the way we are really communicating about our solutions and services. So really one feedback that is 64% of the users really said a more human and a less formal tone of voice is something that they would really love in terms of the kind of content they consume from most of the services and the IT players, right? Because that makes it a lot more relatable, a lot more human, because at the end of the day, the people who are really communicating, or the people to whom we are communicating at the other end of the spectrum, are human beings, right? So I think that is something that we need to keep in mind when we really build out our creative and the tone of voice that we're going after. And 67% of them really said that, prominently features the point of view of an identifiable author, right? Somebody who is an expert in the field or is a known voice in the field, right? That is the kind of content that they would love to see, or, would have a huge influence on the way they perceive a brand or buy from a brand or would love to engage with a brand, right? I will again try this. Okay.
Hit it. That's what I'm talking about.
This is a great example of Zendesk, really.
Now, from the beginning.
Zendesk is a software company that was started in 2007 by these guys. And this is how big the company is now. That is like 1,000% increase or something. Zendesk builds business software for customer engagement. That does not sound very cool, but Zendesk is making it cool by making it better.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
Just working.
How's it going to customer service?
Actually having a little trouble with the technology here. That looks nice. Downloading your account history now.
Thanks for calling, Mom and Dad.
Hi. Can I just confirm your 16-digit account number, your date of birth, and my maiden name?
I'm going to put you on hold for just 1 sec.
That's when I got Zendesk for my customer service.
However customers reach out to you, email, phone, messenger, chat, Zendesk integrates it all. You have what's called an omni-channel solution.
Is it difficult to add chat and message to our Zendesk account?
No.
It's kind of like a secret recipe for offering better integrated customer service more efficiently without compromise. But we just call it Zendesk.
So what we really saw here as an example is Zendesk actually going out and making, an entire, sort of messaging around CRM that wasn't overtly salesy, using everyday experience, right? And very humorous. So what happens when you actually use this kind of humor, use everyday experience, and really talk to the pain points? It's like you're telling the story without being overtly salesy and kind of leading into what really users are expecting, or users are really saying are the kind of content that they really want to consume from, from our tech and software services industry, right? Don't be unoriginal or overly salesy. I think this is one of the big challenges when it comes to any sort of company in the SaaS space or in the IT space, right? We are so eager to go out and sell our products that we tend to kind of look at it from a perspective of people really need to go out and buy our products immediately, right? And therefore, we kind of tend to get overtly salesy in the way we go and communicate or engage with our users. But really, what our users are saying is that they do not like content that is only focused on selling or describing products, right? They do not want products described, right? They want to understand how your product can actually solve a challenge for them. When it is authored by people who are not true experts on the subject matter, right? There's a lot of content that goes out, and you might have heard saying world's best, right? Or the #1 in the world, which really isn't an authentic claim, and users actually see through that claim, right? So whatever claim that we need, if we are an expert in the field, great, right? But if you're not, I think we need to be honest and authentic about it. It's too staid or corporate in tone. Again, this is going back to the overtly salesy part of it, right? Users are consuming a whole lot of information every single day. And for your content really to stand out in their feed or for them to engage, it really needs to be differentiated either in the way we go out and actually go out with the brand identity or the kind of creative that we go out with, like in the example of Salesforce, or needs to be humorous like we saw with Zendesk, right? Consumers really don't like unoriginal thinking, right? Or a lack of new ideas. The same boring thing over and over again, that is not something users would really engage with. Meager evidence or poor quality data to support arguments, right? And this is something that we went over a little before, where we kind of claim saying we are the world's best. Everybody is not the world's best. So unless we have clear-cut data to go out and kind of claim some of those things, the content really needs to be around, what can we solve, right? How does it help? Or, something that is original and not looking like the 7th coming out of a factory row, because most of the content that you really look at from an IT services or an IT tech space just looks like each other. So there is no way that a user is able to differentiate with brands or who's communicating what, because all look the same, sound the same, and sometimes also the solutions don't really talk about what is unique or why I need to buy from that certain service provider. Again, a great way how this was communicated with Slack.
Like so many companies these days, my team has been relying on Slack for quite a while. And yeah, usually we're in the office together working. Now, we're at home. Because reasons. So now we work from home in Slack. Hey everybody, good morning.
Good morning everybody, big day.
Hey cuties. Hi. How's everyone's day?
I miss you guys.
And what is Slack?
Slack is an app that gives us everything we need to communicate and stay productive. At the office, it's the best place to work together. And now that we're at home, it's the best place to work remotely.
We can chat in direct messages or groups. In Slack, they're called channels. We can share documents, brainstorm ideas, talk about our lives, post pictures of lunch.
I thought it'd be total chaos, but it's not. Our team's been using Slack for years, organized into channels for everything we work on. It just adapted to our new situation.
We're out of toilet paper.
I know.
Is that treatment gonna be on time or not?
I mean, I haven't actually started it, but it's all written up there.
I still make time for myself, but I'm always on Slack with the team. So when an idea hits, Slack is where we go to kick it around, just like we did in the office.
Okay, so the water cooler springs to life and is like, so you're looking real thirsty right now. So you're looking real thirsty right now.
We always hung out in Slack channels, but now we pretty much depend on them to do our jobs. I can make one for every group and project, so we can stay organized and on topic. Usually. Sometimes.
You have to imagine a full orchestra here.
Please stop.
We haven't slowed down one bit. We're getting everything done in real time, no matter where we are. Different departments, different cities. It doesn't matter because we're all here in Slack.
Why is it dark where you are?
Oh, I'm in Belgium.
Oh, right.
Why do you look like a sexy vampire?
And when we need to beef up our work from home setup, Slack integrates with every app you can think of. Google Calendar, Zoom, Trello, WebEx, all the big ones, all the hits. Where should I be looking?
That is beautiful.
I did it!
It's a little weird being home all the time, but with Slack, it's like, oh yeah, we're all still part of a team and we're all making cool stuff.
And to me, that's what's so special about Slack. It's just software, but it keeps us connected.
Josh, I miss you.
It gives us a sense of community, and in some small way, it helps us feel like everything will be okay. Everything will be okay.
Yeah, so that's a great example now, I think, which captures what we were talking about earlier, where the entire ad was really about, it wasn't salesy. It is about what all of us are facing every single day. I think all of us can relate to that ad in one way or another, right? There's a lot of humor, right? We are still talking about a very serious product. We are still talking about a very serious service, right? But the entire ad or the entire messaging or the entire content that you saw really spoke about what is Slack solving for the user. What are the product features? But it is not in, these are the product features. It is actually delivered in a very human way. In that sense of, why I would use Slack, what would Slack really solve for me, is captured beautifully and in a very human way with a whole lot of humor, right? And that's what users love to see in terms of content. Now, coming to the last bit of it, which is around, relevance or the right way to engage. I think I just spoke about earlier to say that, we tend to treat our users as one whole, one cohesive part which absolutely needs no personalization, right? So it's a one size fits all sort of a communication that we really go with, irrespective of at what stage are my users, right? Are these existing customers? Are these new customers? And this is specifically true in a SaaS environment where I think the entire, and a lot of the SaaS companies go out with your freemium offers, or you have had somebody take a trial, have had somebody use a product, say for a month or two, but you really want to go and retain them, because a lot of our SaaS business growth really talks about how do you get ARR, right? How do you actually get a lot of your customers to stay loyal in that sense to the kind of product or services that we are going and offering to them, and continue to buy from us or continue to increase usage, right? In this context, personalized messaging or personalized offer really is what users are looking at from a content experience, right? So receiving personalized offers based on my past purchases, right? This is extremely important from a user perspective, that every single time that we go to them, we don't treat them as completely new, that they don't know anything about us. And this requires some amount of journey mapping, some amount of understanding, having your MarTech stack in such a condition that you're able to actually differentiate between new users, people who have never engaged with your brand, to people who have engaged with your brand but really not bought from you, to the third category who have bought from you but probably not used, and people who are really loyal and continue to use your brand, right? So personalization to that effect is extremely important when we really go out and look at how do we want to engage with our users, and bifurcating or bucketing that is extremely critical, right? Providing a seamless experience both in store and digitally, right? Having that omni-channel sort of an experience is also critical with the way users really want to experience a particular product or a service, right? Personalize the way I can earn based on my preferences. Right now, these are some of the content preferences, or some of the preferences that users have actually said is extremely critical for them to engage better with the brand. And I think this is a great example of how Salesforce really goes about personalization, and just to people who have already bought their marketing cloud. And this is a great one that I really want to leave you with.
Advertising Studio from Salesforce Marketing Cloud connects your advertising with your marketing and CRM data to create personalized one-to-one customer journeys. Now, all of your data securely stored inside Salesforce, including sales, service, marketing, and commerce interactions, can be used to power your digital advertising, from customer acquisition and re-engagement to media optimization, allowing you to advertise directly on Facebook, Google Search, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Even use Salesforce DMP to reach the entire display advertising ecosystem. You can quickly find and reach new prospects from lookalikes of your best customers. Then use these high-qualified audiences to drive successful Facebook campaigns, immediately capturing quality leads for your company, right inside both sales and marketing clouds. And with Journey Builder, you can coordinate advertising with other channels, including email, sales, and service, to increase ROI and customer satisfaction, excluding existing or unqualified customers. Improving the customer experience by delivering the right messages to the right prospects at the right time. Create secure, one-to-one personalized advertising journeys for your customers with Advertising Studio. Blaze your trail with Salesforce. Advertising Studio.
Those were some of the principles, and these are the basic principles that I really wanted to share with you today. And these are quite basic in my, when we really look at how we should go and engage in the current environment, really, but often overlooked, right? While a lot of this would seem basic, oh, this is great, this is not something that, this is something that we follow. What I would request is to actually go and take a step back and say, are we really looking at our content from a user perspective? Are we really looking at, personalizing it for users who have engaged with us versus who have not engaged with us? Third one, are we actually being extremely straitjacketed in the way we are actually going and, speaking to our users? Not kind of considering that the person at the other end is a human, and being a little more authentic and human, and inducing a little humor in the way we go and communicate with our current users, as well as the ones that we really want to get on board. So that's what I wanted to leave you with. And I'm sure that, if we were to even imbibe, I think 30 or 40% of what our users are actually saying is the kind of content that they really want to engage with, I'm sure that, we can up our engagement and engage right with our audience. With that, I will stop my screen share. And I know there are a couple of questions that I'll request the team to just share with me. So I know that we love to kind of, always look at an organic growth to say, if I were to have an organic growth, that's my most authentic audience, that's my most loyal audience. What I would really recommend is a balanced mix of both paid and organic. The only reason that I'm saying that you need to kind of introduce your paid is the only way you go after the audience that you really intend to engage, right? Now, when you go with an organic mode, there are your competitors who really want to know what your product is. There are people who want to learn about the industry who follow, right? There are various sorts of people who will follow you. And that is great, because that also kind of spreads the word of mouth. Organic is a fantastic vehicle to also test what kind of content works, right? That can be pushed to paid. So with paid, with actually adding that paid layer, what you're really doing is getting a lot more of the intended target audience that you really want, who you really want to engage and buy from you onto your organic stream, right? So use that balance of organic and paid. Organic is great, but you need the paid layer to really reach out the right audience for your product or service. It is about kind of prioritizing and understanding what your buying committee really looks like, right? So yes, there is a buying committee that is involved in a B2B purchase, but really it is about saying who are the 2 or 3 key roles that you want to go after, and what is the communication that you really want to go with them with, right? So if it is finance, you would really talk about, how this is a financially viable, what are the finance, options that are available, from your brand for them to actually procure this product. Whereas if it is the IT and the IT decision maker, you will talk to them about their pain point, which is, integration, security, all of that, right? Which includes your CIO and CISO and that kind of an audience, right? So when you really look at the buying committee, right, draw out the priority in terms of which are the cohorts that you want to go after, prioritize them and personalize that message, right? Depending on which is the product or service that you're really going out to the market with. But really, I think, Ritu, if you were to really look at some of the insights that were shared during today's session about what really users are looking for in terms of the content that they're receiving from the different products and services, I think that would give you a good direction in terms of how you need to launch your career, in terms of the kind of content that you really want to develop for the SaaS players in the market, right? The whole bit of differentiation, the whole bit of humor, the whole bit of authenticity, the whole bit of being original, right? So I think those would be helpful pointers in terms of where you want to really launch your career as a B2B SaaS content writer. I'm going to answer it from an internal perspective, right? And if it's not, please feel free to, is also for external, okay?
This question is for external, yeah.
Okay. So from an internal perspective, Ashak, I think the importance of content marketing, or the in terms of why it's important for content marketing or thought leadership, really it is about, if we were to really look at sales, right? Forget marketing for a moment. If we were to look at sales, right? The typical way sales works is you build pipeline, right? You have a set of clients in your pipeline, but a lot of the sales effort is also around retaining your big clients, but also about creating new clients, right? If you were to kind of look at that for marketing, because the biggest function for marketing is to create demand, right? While you kind of capture the existing demand, right, you also need to create demand. So if you really want to go out and create, and it's not, if you look at any buying cycle in a B2B, be it the tech consulting space or a SaaS space, right, there is a buying cycle that is involved. And it is not that your customers are always in the market to buy. The reason that you actually go out with content marketing, or the reason that you actually go out with thought leadership, is to engage or to get in people who are not right now in the market to know about your product, so that, when they're ready to buy, they are ready to actually buy from your brand, right? So I think that is one justification, or that is one big thing that I would look at to say, existing pipeline, yes, it's extremely critical that we go out and convert them immediately for us, but it is also about building that sort of pipeline for us to go to convince and convert and keep that healthy pipeline going. And that's where content marketing actually plays a role, right? I don't actually kind of agree a lot with, we need to educate external clients about why they need content marketing, because some of the stats that I actually put forth is from clients or is from buyers, right? Where they're very clearly saying that, I need a lot of thought leadership. I need a lot of content to understand what these brands are selling, right? To understand what is the value add that they have, or what is the challenge that they're really solving for me. So I don't think buyers are extremely happy if all they receive is sales promotions and immediate conversions. That might be a small percentage of the people that we're going after. But really, if you look at any of the content studies that are coming out right now, I think most of the buyers are really talking about being equipped with enough information that will help enable their decision, right? Or help them make the best decision when it comes to B2B purchases. So that is my response to that. Imtiaz, the best way to build audiences with content is really around, forming a content franchisee, right? When I say content franchisee, it is, I think we spoke about, the bit of distinctive content. When I spoke about distinctive content, one thing that I mentioned was, yes, you need to be original, but I think the biggest part of having that distinctive content is consistency, right? How do you build an audience for your content? You need to be, generating top quality content at a frequent pace, right? If you see the big content makers, any of the brands in the world, right? Be it an Amul, be it, let's take Disney, for example, right? They go out and create the best content, but they don't stop at one, right? You create content, great content, time after time, and that's how you build subscribers for your content. So in short, if you really want to build subscribers for your content, think about establishing a content franchisee that really resonates with your audience, and set a frequency with which you will go and address, whatever are the pain points of your audience under this content franchisee. So they know that they can expect this from your brand at that certain frequency and top quality content. And just look at what is the kind of distribution that you really want to go after, organic, paid, influencers, etc. And that's how you go around building, followers for your content. Organic strategy for B2B to reach or quality leads with content marketing. It's not one versus the other, Yugandhara. I do not look at content as one versus the other. I think all of them have an interplay really in actually building that sort of relevance for your brand that converts to a quality lead, right? If I don't know enough about your brand, I will never convert into a quality lead. I may sign up for a lead gen, or I may sign up for a gated content to understand about your brand. But until and unless I'm convinced that, you're the brand and, what your brand stands for, or that you're going to solve a problem that I am facing as a user, right? I'm not going to engage. So it's not one versus the other. I think it's one with the other, right? That's the way I would look at that. Vaishak, the typical ratio that we generally go after, right, or prescribe for the audience is what we say is 60% is brand, 40% is promotional, right, or lead gen. The reason we say that is in the 40%, you're actually capturing the demand that is in market, whereas the 60% of the brand, you're really addressing your out of market users that you want to convert, right? So that is the typical proportion that we say when we say the 60-40 rule that we usually speak about between brand and lead gen. So that's my short answer to that. There's a whole lot of studies. There are a whole lot of really data around why the 60-40 rule, which I would request you to read up, but that's the short answer to that. I don't think there is a difference. The only difference when it comes to the SaaS marketing, so to say, right, is around the freemium, right? How do you convert people from your free trials into your paid stream, right? And also around keeping them loyal or keep coming back to you, or keep increasing revenue or increasing their wallet share with your brand. That's the only differentiation. That's the only part of the differentiation, so to say. And because the buying cycles are a little smaller when compared to the consulting or consulting bit of it, right? From a SaaS perspective, your product needs to be marketed more from a perspective of how does it really fit in the existing existing setup that your user has, right? What are some of the solutions, or what are some of the challenges that your product or service is going to solve for them without any security breach, without any need to kind of really rejig their whole existing infrastructure or existing purchases and solutions. And the third thing is really the ease of use, the ease of upsell, the ease of integration, the ease of, I think, use. Those are some of the things that I would like really lean on when it comes to a SaaS product, right? Because I think those are the critical things that we really need to look into when we go out and talk about SaaS, right? I don't know if that made sense, but that's just a very short answer to your question.